Me and Jolly Sir met in college in my first year. Soon, we were doing treks together and we did like more than 30 treks. And then Jolly Sir shifted to Bangalore. From that time onwards, we used to meet every year and go for treks or places we wanted to visit.
Last year I completed my advanced mountaineering course from HMI Darjeeling and Shivam visited me right after my course was over and we went to Sikkim to toss it off from our bucket list. It was more of a touristic experience, so we decided next year we'll do one of the difficult passes and we both chose Rupin Pass.
So, I've done the stupidest mistake one can ever make. I forgot my headphones in my check-in bag. It's gonna be a long flight. My journey started with a very long wait of 6 hours for Jolly Sir in Delhi, as my flight was pretty early in the morning. After he arrived, we collected some supplies and boarded the train for Dehradun.
Our train to Dehradun was delayed by 2 hours and we were afraid we'll miss our early morning bus for Sankri. But luckily we were just in time to catch the bus which was about to leave in 10 minutes. Our journey for the day ended with another thing tossing off our bucket list, that was riding on the roof of a vehicle, and we reached our starting point of the trek, Dhaula.
मैं एक सरप्राइज देना चाहता हूँ। अगर आप अपने थोड़ा सा यहाँ पे लेफ्ट में देखो तो हमारे साथ ये भाई साहब भी रह रहे हैं
और उसके नीचे ही शिवम सोने वाला है।
हाँ, और यही मैं अपना पैर बचा के सोया था। We started our trek in the morning for our next camp at Seva village. It was a pleasant trek and we were greeted with waterfalls and apple fields in the beginning of the trek. After that, almost every passerby we asked for directions gave us apples for our journey.
Apples are one of the main sources of income for Pahadi community, and this season was for exporting them to the market. And since there were no motorable roads, they do the same with mules. That's why throughout our journey we always encountered their caravan.
ये है अपना यूट्यूबर माँ शिवम
Mashu.
जो अभी सेब का रिव्यू देगा। तो कैसा लगा आपको ये सेब?
ये जो सेब है ये देखो हिमाचल की वादियों में पाए जाते हैं और ये सेब क्या टेस्टी सेब है भाई साहब, खतरनाक। मेरा बचपन से सपना था जब मेरे दांत ठीक हो जाए तो मैं ऐसे सेब खा सकूं।
कितना रेटिंग आउट ऑफ 10?
मैं इसको अगर 11 का स्केल हो तो मैं शगुन के लिए 11 देना
ओके
चाहूंगा।
चलो सही है, ये तो बहुत ही
फिलहाल की तरह Seva pretty early in the afternoon, and it was a beautiful small village with a very beautiful temple. But weirdly, we found it very hard to pass our time till evening so that we can camp. So we started interacting with villagers and local blanket sellers who were traveling to that village. And obviously, dogs never left us alone, so we had a constant company.
Trek from Seva to Jiscoon was not only a bit tiring and long but also full of surprises and sudden terrain and scenery changing. One time we were crossing thick forest and the next we were traveling on the rocky river banks.
We came across this wooden bridge which was in no man's land and on one end there was Uttarakhand and on the other end there was Himachal. उत्तराखंड जाने का मन कर रहा है?
हाँ यार बहुत कर रहा है।
अरे हिमाचल है।
5 मिनट।
चलो चलो जल्दी जल्दी उत्तराखंड जाके आ जाओ। ये थोड़ी देर अभी हिमाचल में आया 2 मिनट हुए थे, कहते उत्तराखंड मिस हो रहा है। ये उत्तराखंड उत्तराखंड अभी चलो चलो वापस हिमाचल हिमाचल आ जाओ आ जाओ आ जाओ। ये हिमाचल बैक टू हिमाचल। कैसा लग रहा है हसीन वादियों में?
बहुत सही लग रहा है भाई।
After a tiring trek through the jungle again, we connected with a motorable road and luckily a small eatery where we decided to have some lunch and spend some more time since we had plenty of it with us. अभी तक का ट्रैक
भाई अभी चोटी अभी बनाई तो
अरे खतरनाक भैया,
कुछ फील ही नहीं आ रहा। चोटी फील आ रही है।
हमने तो कैप्शन भी सोच लिया बट हम बताएंगे नहीं, सीधा दिखाएंगे। तो ट्रैक अभी तक का अच्छा जा रहा है सिवाय इसके। ये जो शू है ये फट रहा है मेरा, यहाँ से
देख सकते हो आप।
सूर ही निकल रहा है और यहाँ से भी इसकी भी बुरी हालत हो रखी है। और ये वाला बोल रहा है मैं भी आ रहा हूँ धीरे धीरे, टेंशन ना लो।
तो कंपनी दिखा दो, कंपनी दिखा दो।
कंपनी है साली क्वेचुआ,
खतरनाक
बता
कंपनी है भाई।
खतरनाक कंपनी, जानी मानी एकदम।
और ये मेरा जूता देख लो।
ये है
एडवांस माउंटेनियरिंग क्लियर कर चुका
भाई,
है।
एडवांस क्लियर कर चुका है, सिक्किम क्लियर कर चुका है, सब क्लियर कर चुका है। तो इससे हमें क्या सीखने को मिलता है कि ब्रांड के पीछे नहीं भागेगा।
At Gosangu, we had the best lunch we could ever had, and we met some locals. We continued our trek from that point, which was gradual ascent but long, and with some company from the villagers we reached this small beautiful village called Jiscoon.
Homestay owner was very kind and was full of stories to tell and eager to know ours too. We talked till late night, and when he left, we realized that we can get some really good Milky Way shots as the sky was getting clear.
Jiscoon is one and only village where you can find a post box, so we decided to send postcards to family and friends from there. We shared our goodbye with our homestay owner and left for our next camping site, that is Buras, Kandi.
Let us follow where rivers flow.
It is when the trail gets tough and tiring, we realize that shooting for a documentary without a dedicated crew is not an easy job. So we constantly had to remind each other that we have to shoot this bit. It's good. But many times we both were so engaged that we forget to do so. फिर फॉरेस्ट आ गया यार, ये बताओ गलत बात है। इतना जल्दी आया मेरे को तो समझने में ना, अभी तो आ रहा था अभी फॉरेस्ट। गलत बात है यार, ये ऐसे चीटिंग है मैन।
You still got so much more to say.
When you go into ice or snow, shoe soles are tend to expand. और वो फट सकते थे पुराने वाले शूज। सो वीडियो बना रहा हूँ, अब नहीं बन रही। These local shoes 350 but works like charm.
लोकल लोग बोलते हैं कि यही जूते सारे ट्रेकर पहनते हैं।
Hot jolly. So let's see.
Our trek for Buras Kandi was also full of surprises and ever-changing scenery, jungles, bridges, waterfalls and whatnot.
Buras Kandi, and one of the locals told us that there are bears in that area. So we had to collect some firewood and build a fire near our camp to keep them away. But at midnight it started raining, and we were just sitting ducks in our tent, hoping bears won't give us a visit. And to make things worse, our tent also started leaking. So, long story short, Jolly and I didn't sleep for a minute.
We had two options in front of us for the next day. Either we could camp at the lower waterfall site, also called Dhandrash, or we could take a challenge to do the 3-4 hour trek to the upper waterfall camp, where we knew there was a camp setup already present for regular trekkers. So we obviously chose the second one.
One problem with directly aiming for the upper waterfall camp was a sudden altitude gain. From where we were starting to where we were headed, we would be gaining almost 3000 feet of altitude in a single day. So there were fair chances to get hit by altitude sickness.
Trek till lower waterfall was so scenic and beautiful. We passed through beautiful jungles, moraines, and beautiful green meadows. And just when we were a kilometer away from Dhandrash, we realized that we should take a break and have some food since we didn't have anything while leaving from Buras Kandi.
We were constantly keeping check on our hydration. One of the easiest way to do so is to check your urine color. The more yellow or orange it is, the lower is your hydration level. I took extra pill of Diamox because in the next few hours we were about to gain almost 2000 feet of altitude, and the last thing I wanted was to get hit by altitude sickness.
Just after 5-10 minutes into the waterfall climb, we realized that it's not going to be an easy one, and finding the trail was also tricky because it rained a day before, and wherever we had to cross a water stream, it was a bit tricky.
I was getting minor headaches, but I avoided them because I thought they might be because of lack of sleep, but also because I didn't want it to think I'm getting altitude sickness. But it took us an hour and a half to reach the middle waterfall, and my headache was getting more intense and I started getting a slight vomiting sensation.
To make things worse at middle waterfall, we reached a dead end where no trail was leading to upper waterfall. So I asked Shivam to sit and take rest, and I didn't want to tell him he's getting altitude sickness because it would have brought his morale down. So I kept on telling him it's just because of lack of sleep and food.
Since we were kind of stuck, and just before I was going to say, okay, let's descend, we spotted Himanshu coming up, and we were so happy to sight a single soul on the trail. And Jolly Sir and Himanshu searched for the trail together, but was not able to find one. So Himanshu suggested to find a suitable spot to camp rather than descending. And just as we opened our tents, we spotted a group of guides coming down the waterfall.
They brought a different level of energy in us, and they were so supporting and motivating. They guided us exact trail to get to the upper waterfall. We had small talks with them, and by that time Shivam was also getting better. We crossed the middle waterfall in very less visibility, and after the grueling climb to upper waterfall, we finally reached the camp.
Please come back home. Please come back home. Please come back home. Please come back home.
The campsite was so beautiful that we couldn't resist spending another day there. It was just next to the river, which was eventually forming that monstrous waterfall. We decided to go to the end of the upper waterfall and treat ourselves with that feeling of satisfaction of what we've achieved so far. It was like our acclimatization day. We interacted with local shepherds and guides who were passing by.
तो ये चल रही है हाई ऑल्टीट्यूड ट्रैकिंग. ठंडे ठंडे पानी से बर्तन धुलवा रहे हैं क्योंकि उसने मुझसे भी थोड़े बर्तन धुलवाए तो मुझे आ गया गुस्सा. तो बड़े बर्तन कुकर वुकर वगैरह यही धोएगा.
खाना पड़ता है तो धोना भी पड़ता है.
कैसा लग रहा है हाई ऑल्टीट्यूड ट्रैकिंग? चलो सही है।
अच्छा तो नहीं लग रहा, हाथों की लग जाती है, बट खाया है तो धोना भी पड़ेगा। देखो साहिब,
ये हुई बात है, एकदम काम वाली बाई लग रहा है।
मैं बचपन से काम वाली बाई ही बनना चाहता था, तो घर वालों ने पढ़ा दी।
चलो फिर अभी मेरे घर ही बुला लूंगा बेंगलोर में, काम वाम दे देंगे।
सही है, वैसे भी स्विच मारने की सोच रहा हूँ।
Take me back to that big sky. Take me back to the reasons why I'm lost without you. With you on fire. Take me back to your brighter side.
This day was the day this trip was all about. This day was the day we were going to the Rupin Pass. Luckily, the sky was clear and we decided to leave early in the morning to avoid whiteouts since the trail was very tricky and we had heard that people tend to lose the way on the trail.
Our main aim was to reach to a point where we can finally figure out the way to Rupin Pass Gully, but reaching to that point was not easy. It was a lengthy, rocky moraine trek, and with the clouds just behind us, it was like we were racing with the clouds to reach the Rupin Pass first. Reaching the 15,000 plus feet Roopin Pass was a whole different experience in itself. We were feeling so many emotions at the same time. We were happy, proud, tired, all at the same time. But that couldn't stop us from having a small photo session at the top and a much needed water and snack break.
After spending about an hour at Pass, it was time to descend to our next campsite, that was Rontigad. And there comes the other side of the coin, where the trek is now cruel on your knees and ankles. It also gets more tricky and slippery, but the happiness of completing the Rupin Pass was so enormous that we reached the campsite without any problem. We started with ease the next morning. We woke up little late, had breakfast, shared our goodbye, and then we started our trek to Sangla. It was supposed to be the simple descending trail, but there were so many shepherd trails that we kept on traversing along the mountain.
We encountered yaks in our way, and cows and sheeps. It was like we were getting back to the normal civilization. And after following the same road and taking few village shortcuts, we reached Sangla. भाग के जाना ताकि मरने का भी सबूत रहे. ओ अरे वो डर के भाग रही थी.
And I say, hey, 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 live it like we're renegades. Hey, 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 live it like we're renegades.
we could hear the Baspa River roaring, and the bridge that connected the mountainside to the city side meant a lot more than just a bridge to us. It was a bridge that connected our two selves together, the adventurous one and the normal one. And this is how our trip ends, that started with a long wait and ended with a stronger bond of friendship and wanderlust.